Well, happy July 13th, the end of the RF repack, or almost complete. There are still a couple of TV stations throughout the country that have gotten special permission to stay where they are for a little tiny bit. So be aware of changes still. One of the things we decided to do with this particular show is make up this mega RF convention and do a what do you call it, a coordination of that convention with IAS, and then on another day do the same coordination with Wireless Workbench, which will be on Friday. Uh, the the it's not necessarily to say one or the other. It's just there's different work processes in both of them, and it's to display what that difference is. Now we've got a couple of things I want to show you. One, this is an idea of the spectrum. The gray down here in the bottom is where we've been cut off on in the 600 megahertz. And here's all of the bands that the different manufacturers have that now are usable or not usable. Sennheiser, Shure, Audio Technica's lost a couple. EV's totally gone. I don't have current information on what EV is done in the beginning. On the other Q5X, same thing. They must have to something else. And RAD, of course, is still usable because it covers the entire band. G57 is the band in Shure that we're going to be using a lot of today. So this is a demonstration of the what bands you can use. Telex, the BTR band, all of the half of the frequencies are gone. So it's all of the belt pack receive frequencies are gone, I think. So we can't use those anymore, except maybe E88. E88 is still available. So want to look at what we're doing here. We've got a diagram of a venue. And in this diagram, here's Hall A up on the top. And it's a fairly big hall, 150 by 75 stage in it, 250-foot wide hall with hallways on either side. And there's 2 floors of breakout rooms, which are all about 75 by 35 on both sides, A through H on this side and L through U on this side, 2 floors. And then right next door, there's another show, another theater, Hall B, same size as the main Hall A, which has a show in it. It's got a little bit of wireless in it, some in-ear monitors, a couple of IFBs, some free speak. And we just have to make sure we protect that because that's a show right next door to us. Not that we can easily receive them all, but we don't want to also interfere with them. So the tech spec for this particular event was this. It's an event that covers 3 days. Each evening has entertainment in Hall A. The breakout rooms hold a maximum of 15 people, including crew. So obviously this is not a COVID proper convention, but all of the breakout rooms are being streamed live. So there's 16 breakout rooms on each of 2 floors, and another event is concurrent with ours in Hall B. So in the main Hall A, we're going to have 6 combo wireless Axion digital on frequency diversity, and 4 IFB channels, which we can use as left channel, right channel. Left is the host, right is the guest, for instance. And then we've got the band equipment, which will be used at nighttime, which is 4 UHFRs and 4 ULXT4s for the guitars and 8 stereo in-ear monitors. Although the band stuff is you only used at night, I've gone ahead and done my planning so I can have all of those frequencies usable during the daytimes as well, in case they have a rehearsal. So then in each breakout room, there's 4 Lav Wireless ULXD4 for a total of 64 per side of the venue, and then 16 IFBs throughout the rooms, used as left and right. So that's a total of 32 channels of IFB. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in my coordination. I'm going to pick a set of frequencies for these breakout rooms, and I'm going to use the same set on the other side because they're over 300 feet away through the entire hall. And since they're all going to be ULXD in high density mode, which is very low power, I'm not going to worry about that. And the PSM 1000s, which are IFBs in all these rooms, I'm going to use them at their lowest power and maybe even pad them down a little bit. So we'll be able to reuse the frequencies on one side on the other side. Okay, so this is what we're going to end up doing. Here's over here on the right hand side of this drawing here is a band planning section, which I'm going to be filling in as I do the coordination. So we'll basically do the band planning by assigning TV channels to different things. So here, if we go into our RF coordination, I've already entered in the other shows, wireless, the show B, Hall B, because they did it in IAS and they just gave me the file and I put it in as my starting point. So down on the bottom here, I've also entered in the scan from this venue, but the scan is done outside. So these are the worst case RF for all these different channels. So all the green ones are DTV stations. All the white ones are available spots to put things in. And the red is out of band. And what I've done here, if you go into the edit active spectrum up on top, you can enter a couple of new entries for the July 13th end of 600 megahertz band planning. I called mine 600 low, which goes 616 to 653, and 600 high, 663 to 698. And I've excluded them. So now those are excluded up here. If I turn them off, turn off those two, and turn it back on, all of this spectrum here, I'm getting rid of this whole thing. So I'm going to go ahead and turn them back on. What you see here is the channel 37, which is the reserve band for radio telescopes. And here is channel C, which is the C band that T-Mobile is using for their wireless, for their cell phones. I'm going to go ahead and turn that excluded spectrum back on again. And by doing this, all of the standard wireless mic bands will be excluded from this area. Now, eventually, when we get to IAS version 6, this will have all new wireless database in it, so that they will automatically be what the manufacturers have done. But basically, the manufacturers, if they had a band that went into this on this forbidden area, they have just made it so it just doesn't go in there. It stops right there. And the important thing to remember is, if you have a wireless that can work in this area, even if you only tune it into the usable areas of this spectrum, it is not illegal. It's not legal. So any wireless that still can tune to this area is not legal and has to be retuned or sold to some South American country or just thrown away. It's not legal. And you can be fined up to $16,000 per day per frequency if you're caught using frequencies in this area. $16,000 per day per frequency. So it's really not worth trying to get away with putting stuff up here. There's a couple little spaces, this tiny little white space here, and this duplex gap here. Let me scan out a little tiny bit here. So you can see those a little bit better. So here's the duplex gap, and here's this little band right here, and those are still usable. It's not very big, and you need to keep your RF level below 20 milliwatts to use them in there. But if you have equipment that used to be in this band, when the manufacturer repacks or resets the frequency band, those parts of the band will still be available to get into. So I'm going to start with this coordination by doing all of this stuff that's going to have transmit combiners involved in it, because that transmit combiner is what we have to watch out for. 3 transmit thirds or triple beats and thirds and fifths, because the transmit combiner, being a piece of nonlinear electronics, is going to make intermod, and that's the main thing where you get intermod. So the first thing I'm going to do in this list is all the transmit stuff. So let's start with the 4 channels of IFB for the main show. Those are going to be PSM 1000s in the G10 band. So I'm going to go back in here. I've made a new zone called the Mega Convention and made it active. And what that means is any frequencies that I put down in the Mega Convention section will be separated by this amount here, default bandwidth, from frequencies in the other show's location. It's not going to be doing intermod against them. It's just going to make sure I'm at least 0.3 meg away from those other frequencies. So here in the Mega Convention, we're now going to go back here and we're going to go to Sure. And we're going to go to the PSM 1000. And we're going to start with G10, the band where those wireless are going to be. So they're going to be G10. And I'm going to do a range, calculate. And I need to have 4 of them. So I'm going to stick those 4 in channel 19. In channel 19, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to also choose a spare in channel 21, because any of these triple beat wireless are hard to find, going to be hard to find another frequency after you've done all the coordination. So I've got those channel 19. Let me see if I can get more in 19 here. If I do this a couple of different times, I may be able to get 5 and 9. There we go. Every time you press calculate, it does a recalculate of the intermod, and it uses it every time it does it. It starts with a different random number. So if you keep entering it, you may be able to get more channels for your for a particular band in one area. So I'm going to choose these 19s, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to choose 7, which is all of the 19s, because this is my main show. I want to make sure that I have IFBs for the main show, and I want to make sure they work. And over here on my band plan in 19, I'm going to call main IFB. So now I've used channel 19 as my main IFB. And I'm going to save this as a new file. main show. So I now have my base file, which included all of these and the active spectrum settings. By the way, those settings I did in the active spectrum, you have to do every time you start a new file, unless you're starting with a file that you know already has had them set. So if I have to go back to the beginning, I can always start with my base file. Second thing I want to coordinate, let's mark this one down here. We've already done this one here. Now I'm going to do the ears for the band. I need 8 ears for the 8 PSM 1000s in J8. So we're going to go back to here. Sure, PSM 1000, and we can go up to J8. And J8 is one of those bands that has a little bit of it that extends into the forbidden zone, I will call it. But it's not going to be influenced by those because I excluded that. So I'm going to do a range search on my PSM 1000 J8s. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for 8 of those. And here's my 8, and I could probably fit 8 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 31 and 33, 29, 28. I'm going to put them on the bottom. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That just barely fits in. So I'm going to do another recalculate and see if I can get a little bit more in the 29. That's better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got 10 frequencies for the band's ears, which gives me a couple of spares, which is very important to have, particularly for musicians' ears. And I'm going to put these down into band ears. Now, if I forget where I put those in terms of channel, I can go here, I can click on that, and I can see the TV channel here, 28, and I can look it down here on the bottom of the list, and 29, so it's 28 and 29. But another way to do it is to do a print preview, which will show me all the frequencies in one screen, and I can go scroll down here, and here's my band ears, the name of the this section, and I can see that here I am, 28 and 29, 5 and 28, and 5 and 29. And I can close that now. And I'm going to be in 28 is going to be band ears. Now, why do I do band planning? What's the point? Why not just stick everything in there? Well, the offending frequency in any coordination are IFBs and in-ear monitors. And I say that because you can easily overdrive the transmitters. If a monitor engineer is not paying attention to the levels going into his in-ear monitors, and he keeps pushing because his talent wants it louder, if he overdrives it, that spectrum is going to splatter all over the place and be wider bandwidth, use up more bandwidth than you're allowing for it. So you're going to leak into everything around it. And if I were to put wireless mics intermixed with the in-ears, and those in-ears got overdriven, I would cause the wireless mics to drop out. So the best thing to do is put everything that is the same kind of thing in one area. And this is what band planning is all about. So I've got my band ears in there, And now I've done the band ears. I'm going to mark those off. And now I have 16 channels of IFB, which I have to use in the 16 rooms on one side and then duplicate the frequencies in 16 rooms on the other side of the building. So I'm going to pick 16, and those can be in G10 and J8. So here we've got somehow we created a new zone here. I'm going to make this active here. So we want to go back, and we're going to have, these all are also PSM 1000s. And the 16 rooms, I'm going to put 16 channels in there for the 16 rooms, but they're stereo units. So the right channel could be used as another IFB for that room if it had to have it. And we're assuming all of these rooms have plenty of audio feeds in and out from the main control room. And they're getting video feeds as well, because it's all going to be webcast, the whole thing. So they have plenty of audio outs to feed their ears. And the ear transmitters will not be in the band ear, I'm sorry, in the breakout rooms, will not be into a single or group of combiners. We're going to put these transmitters individually in every other room on their whip antennas. So there's no combiner involved with them. So I'm going to be, if I run out of room to squeeze them in, I'm going to go ahead and not do triple beats because they're going to be low power and they're not going to go through a combiner. So I'm going to try to do with triple beats, but if I had to get a couple more frequencies, I'll turn off triple beats and I'll get them in there. So here we are. We did the band ears, and now we want to go back to Shure PSM 1000, and we were going to do two things here, G10 and J8. So I'm going to go back and do G10 and scan that. And if I look in options, I still have triple beats on. So I'm going to do this a couple of times, see if I can get more. What's the maximum I can get out of there? So that's about it. So I have channel 21, couple in 21, and let me turn this off here and look where we are here. 21 has some of the other shows wireless in it. That's why. So if I hover over this, I can see this is channel 22 and here's channel 21. Now this is an interesting thing about IAS. You see, I've got a big space of this channel here, channel 21 right here. And it's not putting anything in the middle, and it's just the way intermod works. Sometimes you can't fit it all in. If I keep doing the spectrum over and over again, it changes. So you see more. Sometimes there's more in that band. Sometimes there's less in there. Sometimes there's a space that's not even used. So here's all the way from 512 up to 516, which is empty. Now, down the road, when I'm hurting for wireless mic frequencies, I might succumb to sticking one in here. But I usually like to try to avoid it just because it messes everything up. So here we've got in G10, let's go with the 21s, channel 21s, and the channel 22s, and 23s. So we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the one that's labeled with a D means it's right on the edge of a DTV station. If you look at it on a spectrum analyzer, basically half of that space you would hope to put a channel on has got the rising or falling side of a DTV station, and it's not ideal. If I was putting a RAD channel in there, I might go ahead and put it on the 25D, because the RAD channels are AM modulation, very thin, not much bandwidth, and I could probably get away with it putting in there. But certainly a PSM 1000, which is needs at least 300 meg on 300K on 300K on each side of it, I wouldn't want to stick in there. So here's, I'm going to move these over to, so that's going to be 21, 22, and 23 are going to be in our first part of the breakout room. Now let's go back and turn off this options, turn off the triple beat for that section. And if I go to the section, I can all just click right up here and do more, because these are all still set the same. I'm doing the same band, but if I want to be sure that I'm matching something, I can go here and do a Control F. And now I've done the same as clicking up here, but I've based it on what's down here. So for instance, if I do this calculate, I basically get the same thing. So here, I do this a few times, and now I've got more channels within 21 and 23 that do not have the triple beat set, or do not have triple beat intermod done. So James is asking if 20 ended up as exclusion. I don't think so. Go down here. So here's 23, 22, 21. Oh, 20 is a DTV station. So I didn't want to go in 20. So I'm going to pick some more of these breakout room frequencies here. I had 8, so I want to get up to 16. So I'm just going to do 4 in 21. So that's going to be a breakout, G10, and then the other ones I had in there were band ears. Where's the breakout? Oh, down at the bottom. Unassigned, 21, 18, which is 499, 975. I don't see how that one got in there. So this was going from 21, 22, 23, 21. Now, as I added them, they add them to the bottom of the list. So I can refresh this list and alphabetize or put them in the same, in order. So now I'm going, basically it's going 21, 21. Here's my 18. I want to get rid of that. 21, 22, and 23. So I'm going to do this one here, 22 and 23. I got rid of the 19. if I look at my spectrum here, I had the 19 and it was a DT channel. It was an 18 actually. 18 is my main IFB. And okay, this is doing, oh, that's mics and the other thing. 18, I have an 18, a 19 in my main IFB. That's correct. Now these mics are from the Hall B, so I can't worry about those. So this one right here is in 21. See the 21 up here? And if I go down further, all the way down to the bottom, my bottom one is in 23. So these are going to be breakout rooms, G10. Now I've got plenty of spares in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I only need 16 between the two bands. So if we do the second band in the breakout rooms, which is J8, we got a lot in here. So we may be able to have plenty of spares for the breakout rooms for the ears, for the IFB. So I'm going to do channel 31, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 31 and 33. Those are J8. So 31 and 33 are also breakout rooms. Now, what I would do with these breakout rooms is probably spread them around. For instance, I would do the first breakout room on the first frequency, the second breakout room on the third frequency, which would give them a little more spreading, a little more separation. Okay, breakout J8. So now I've got the breakout J8s. And I've got way more than 16 channels available for those. And those are going to be duplicated on both sides of the building. So they'll be the same. And then I'll spread them around on the other side. So similar frequencies aren't directly across, but they're have a little more distance in between them. But I think 300 feet through the building on a low power, even PSM 1000, will probably have no problem in staying apart. So now we've got basically all microphone and guitar and wireless for the events. So let's look at doing microphones. Once we do microphones, we're also going to go with the third triple beats turned off. Now I realized I just did the J8s with the triple beats turned off. Let me just go back and redo those with them first turned on. So it's a lot less here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 38. 8, 9, 10, 11. And did I do 38? Yeah, I did 38. 38. 38 is going to be a tight one because that is this little tiny hole. This little tiny hole right here. So here's a channel 38 is usable between 613 and I'm sorry, 616 and 653. But they do fit in there. They're okay. So I'm going to go with them. And I think this one over here that's a little close on the end, I may find when I actually look at it with the spectrum analyzer, it's not going to be good. So all of these have to be examined closely with the spectrum analyzer to see where you're at. Now in my breakouts, I've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 11. So I got plenty of ear frequencies for that, for the breakout rooms. And I didn't have to go to non triple beat frequencies for the J8 actually. So I'm going to do a save on that. Now, so these are going between 31, 33, and 38. Now these 38s may be the ones that are marginal, although it may not be a problem because in this spectrum up here, the actual usage for band A cellular may or may not be used. So that's the only one that's really close here. Now this is 37, which is the channel you have to stay away from for radio telescope. But if band A is not in use, cellular band A is not in use where you are, then you're not going to have much encroaching upon this last little bit of band there. So let's go back to where we were. Where are we here? Let's pick our main combo wireless, our main ULXD combo wireless G57. So we're going to turn off our triple beats here, and we're going to go to Shure Erskine Digital G57 rather. And actually, you know, there's something else I have to do first. Here I've got UHFR. Definitely want to put the UHFRs in a clean area. The Erskine Digital would work fine on a weak DTV station as long as they're 10 dB hotter than that TV station. So I don't too worried about those. But the UHFRs will sound terrible if they're on even a weak DTV station. So I want to do the UHFRs first. So it's going to be UHFR. And what band was I going to use for that? J5. And I'll do a calculate on that. So there's not many available, but enough. So we'll start with these in channel 33. And we'll move those. And then we'll see if we can get some more in channel 33 by doing a few more. Can't get any more in 33, so I'm going to turn off fifth order and then calculate a couple of times. And there I got another 33. Come on. And we need 6, so we're a little low here. We've got 5 in channel 33. So those two are right next to DTV channels, 32 and 34. And our band is J5, which is this band right here. And I would think we'd be able to get more in 31. Oh, no, it's not 31. It's right in here. So let's see if we can get one more. No, not much luck in getting it. What else do we have in that band right there? That's not what I want to do. Go into here. So where's my unassigned? Is down here. So 33, 33. This is not right. These are all in 33, which has my breakout J8. Breakout J8. So if these are all in 33, can I move those breakout J8s? So that's this one right here, 31, 31, 31, 33. So let's do this. Let's get rid of these and do another search here in J8. And let's remove the 33s from here. What I want, cancel, clear. I want clear. And 33. So this is 33. And this is 33. And this is 33. And this is 38, 38, 38, 30, 33. Now I should have no 33s in there, but some 38. So I need to get more in there for the breakout J8 IFBs. And in my options, I'm doing, let's just turn off triple beats, not fifths, and do a search here. So now I can find some more in the 31 band. One, two, three, and the 30, I don't want 33s. 2, I can do some 28s as well. Band ears are okay, 28, 28, and 28. So I'm going to move those manually into this band right here. Now, if I just clicked on them and say move checked ones, it would put that in the unassigned. If I drag them straight down and in where this is, it'll be fine. So I'm going to refresh this list. So now the J8s should be all together. What am I saying? That's the BOJ8s. BO, G10, G10, J8s. Okay, they're intermixed with the band ears a little bit, and then, okay, so they're all separate and they're just intermixed with band ears. They're not connected with any mics. So that is going to be 23 BOG10, no, 23, 28 band ears. And that's going to be J8. And it's also 20, 28, 29 is band ears, and then 31 is the BOJ8. Okay, so we have plenty, and then 38. Okay, we got plenty of breakout ears, even though they're intermixed with the band ears, which won't be a real problem because they're in the middle venue. These are all properly spaced. They're all coordinated together. So they ought to be working all fine. Now, so we've got band ears all done. Now we want to go back to the UHFRs, J5. UHFR, J5. Now we'll do this a couple of times. Now look at all those 33s we found now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we got 7 33s. And here's one more, which is not a DTV station. So here's our UHFRs, which are going to be the band mics. And we needed 4, but I have way more than I have like 8. So I've got plenty of spares for the band mics. And that's, they're all going to be in here in 33, are all going to be 33. So all the 33s are not going to be this. It's going to be band mics. Okay. Kenneth Goodwin is asking, how would you plan for frequency used by random ENG crews to arrive but use different RF manufacturers? Well, I try to put them in their own space, if I could save a space. Now, this particular venue, there's not much spectrum to save. If they were using a digital wireless mic, which they most likely are not, they're probably using electrosonic, I would just go ahead and coordinate them in bands that had other mics in them, other like for instance, the UHFR J5s. It sometimes is doable. What I often like to do is if I want to find out what frequency they already have in their wireless and compare it to my list and make sure it's plenty of spacing between their frequency and where I am, no matter what is around it. If they're happy with that frequency, even if it's on a DTV station, if they're happy with it, I'm happy with it. Typically what I'll do is I'll try to just do a coordination of 3 or 4 wireless if they need one frequency, and give them those and put them in their separate zone, totally separate zone from the one I'm in, which means I'm not doing intermod with their stuff and it's my stuff, which makes it easier for me to find them. And then I'll label it with their cell phone number, and I will text them a picture of that section. And then I have it in my phone. I've texted them with their frequencies, and they can text me back and say they had a problem. Gary asked, I thought I wanted triple beats off because in the BO rooms there were no combiners. Well, I want to start with triple beats on. It's always a more stringent coordination to start with triple beats on, and I only want to turn them off if I'm stuck, because even though there's no combiners, these are transmitters, and they will transmit, their frequency will transmit and go into the antennas of a transmitter 2 rooms down and cause intermod. So if I do their intermods carefully with triple beats on, then I'm protected, better protected. I think when you go in and you walk all of these IFBs throughout all the different rooms, and you have birdies or noise in one, it's probably because that's one of the frequencies that you coordinated or I coordinated without the triple beat on. So it's causing a problem. And I just have to pick another frequency or use the spare and see if that is usable. Now, when I get to the next step is doing the mics that are digital. So I've done this one here, the UHFRs, and I'll mark that off. So I've got 6 Axient digital, 4 ULXD4, and 64 ULXD4 as my breakout rooms. I'm going to do the ULXD4s as low power, high density. And I'm going to duplicate 64 frequencies on one side of the building with 64 frequencies on the other side of the building. Each side of the building has 16 rooms on it, needing 4 wireless each with 64 frequencies. So let's do the guitar mics, which are ULXD, and or actually let's do the Axient digital with the main wireless. Did I do those already? G57? No, I didn't. So I'm going to do the G57, the Shure Axient digital G57. I'm going to do that range, and I'm using the same stuff, the same spectrum I've got down here, which I was using before. This spectrum right here. So here's a couple of 23s, and 23 I've already used for G10. So obviously all these frequencies up here are in bands that I've used for either IFBs or in-ear monitors. So it's not going to really work for me. So what I want to do is go down to this spectrum right here, and I'm going to turn off, clear the candidate list, and I'm going to open up. First of all, I'm going to load this scan with a scan done outside the building, which has the most powerful TV channels. I'm going to trade that with a scan done inside the building. So I'm going to clear that, and I'm going to import the scan done inside, which is tech specs. Go backwards here. Tech specs. Scans in Mega Show City. Inside scans. So here's my inside scans. Here, let's just do these up here. Inside scans. And right away, you see I've got tons of isolation in this building. It's probably in the basement somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the DTV stations on these sections here and turn them on in the places I have put all my other stuff. So basically, I'm excluding the channels that I've already used by calling them DTV stations. Now in here, this has got a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to bother doing that because there seems to be some strong peaks in there. We'll go there if we have to later. And when I call these DTV stations, it will keep the mics that I'm about to coordinate from being in those channels. Now, both the ULXD and the Axient Digital are very, we're comfortably on weak DTV station. This is a weak DTV station now inside, and the same with this over here. It's a weak DTV station, which before it was pretty big DTV station, so it wasn't weak at all. So here's my section. I'm going to go back and do the ULXD, the Shure Axient rather, again. And now we found a bunch here. So we have channel 18 we can use, which I need to have 6 wireless mics. So we'll go here on 18. Let's do 35 and 36 for the main mic. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And see if we more 35 and 36. So 35 and 36. So we've got 1 spare for the Axient Digital here. And that's going to be on here. Come on, there we go. There's the main mics. Okay. So we've done the main mics. Here's main ones here. A couple more questions. Under what situations would you add two-way radios to your coordination? Well, I would be aware of what frequencies are being used, and I would compare manually the frequencies that came from the wireless walkie-talkie company with frequencies that may be in use in the other hall, but I wouldn't be actually coordinating them with IAS. I could, but usually that stuff is rented from another vendor, and I just have to make sure they're not going to interfere with another channel. Now, the key thing about walkie-talkies is they have keys in them which prevent them from transmitting on top of each other. So you have to look at not only the frequency, but the key frequency for that channel. If you can often get away with 2 channels on the same frequency with different keys. It's not great because then people talking on that channel are still interfered with by the other channel that's communicating. So unless you have a way to get around that, it's better to just have nice, clean, separated frequencies on the walkie-talkies as well. The PSMs can be higher power, but I'm running them all on, certainly in the breakout rooms, on the lowest power, probably with a pad as well, because the room is only 32 feet wide. Don't need more than a few milliwatts to do an in-ear monitor on a breakout room 32 feet wide. So I would definitely pad them down to be as low as possible to work. You can't actually pre-plan for ENG crews coming in. It's sometimes the show will have a crew that's going to document what they're doing, and then you'll plan in advance. But often you'll just have to keep your eye open for them coming in the door and make sure that frequencies are away from where you're going. Now, this particular version of the show is harder because it's got a lot of frequencies in there, but there's still plenty of room to fit them all in. wireless slide advancers. If I don't know what band they work in, my guess is they would be in the 60s or 70s, you know, in the very low VHF band, if they were. I wouldn't put the walkie-talkies into IAS. I just have a list of their frequencies. I could if I wanted to, but there's not going to gain anything to add there. If I were doing the coordination, if I were specifying the frequencies, I would put them into IAS, which you can coordinate frequencies. But normally, the walkie-talkies are a separate coordination done by the vendor. And I've never really been on a show where I had to worry about anything other than being aware of what the frequencies are for the show. So let's go in and do our guitar wireless now, which are in 850 or G50 in ULXD. And they're all the way down here on the bottom. Let's do G50 first, the low ones here. And we only have 4 guitars, so that's going to be easy to put them in there. So the 4 guitars are going to go in TV18. So we'll pick like 6 frequencies for the guitars. Band guitar. They only need 4, they got 6. They'll be happy with that. So here's our guitars. We did our guitars. And now we're left with only 64 more frequencies we have to come up with. Well, first of all, we're going to do those in high density mode, which means that there's no intermod. We just turn off thirds and fifths. And we go up to UL. I'm going to do those in, I could do those in G50, H50. We did the other one in G50, the guitars. Let's start with H50 for the rooms here. And we're looking for 64 frequencies. And here's channels 30, 32, 34, and 4 from 35. So I'm just going to select all of them, move all items. 59635. And I'm going to get rid of these 4 down here. From channel 35, which are in the main mic thing. So these are in 4. So there's going to be breakout, mic, and they start at 24. So one through 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 24. So we're going to take this out of 24. Take this out of 25. So now we have breakout starting in all these unassigned ones here. So we'll take out 547.95 also. And so we're doing channel 30, 32, 34, now 34, got it. So 30, 32, 30, 32, and 34. And here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 30 is going to be 1 through 16. And 32, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 and 32. And then the last in 34, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15. So we have 35 to 50. So we need a few more to get up to the 64 number. Slide advancers are in 2.4 gig. That doesn't bother me. Go ahead and play with Wi-Fi. That's fine. Although if as a frequency coordinator, I'd be nice to know about that, because if you're in a venue that's really heavy in Wi-Fi, you may want to tell your slide advancers that's the problem with it. So Eli is asking, how do you define the power or high density of the transmitters you're coordinating in IAS? Well, you don't actually select the power or the density. That's just part of what you're running them at. In high density mode, they're running on only on a few milliwatts, the lowest power. If I was putting in, let's say, Electrosonics T1 transmitters that conceivably could run at 250 milliwatts, I would definitely knock them down. If I saw an ENG crew came in with an IFB transmitter at 250 milliwatts, I loan them a 6 dB pad at the very least. The guitars were in ULXD. They were in H50 or G50. J5 was the handheld wireless UHFR for Dan. TV20 maybe. TV20, we'll look at that. Okay, John Christie points out that another brand of Q Wireless operates in 433 megahertz, but that's way down in the bottom of our spectrum. We're just dealing with 470 and up for this here. So that's out of the range of what we have to worry about. So we need about another 10 more frequencies for this to work here, because we don't quite have 64. So here we're going to call these the breakout 1 through 40. Now what I do when I would assign these to the actual ULXD receivers, I would do them alternately. So the first room would get 1, 3, 5, 7, for instance. And then the next room would do the opposite. Then each room, within a room, we have a little bit more spacing between the low power mics. I may even do it, let's say 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11 on up, and then start on the evens below, which gives plenty more spacing everywhere. Or do odds on the upper floor and evens on the lower floor, which is another way to look at it. So here's the 850 and G50 with another band we were going to think about using for ULXD4s. And here's some a bunch of 18s. Channel 18 we haven't used at all. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and let's use some 20s. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I'm going to take all the 20s here. 23. So this is going to be breakout, and it's going to be 41 through 63. 41 through 63. I think my count's right, but I could probably take get a couple more in here. Oh, here I can add some channel 35s. I've already got something in main mics in 35. Okay. Well, I'm close. I'm very close to having the right number. 18 band guitars. Is that right? Band guitars were in 18. That's good to note that. Uh, 18. That's good to note that. 18. It doesn't help if you don't write down your notes here. So 18 is going to be a huge chunk. So the band guitars, the band guitars are mics as well. So they're going to be H50, G50. What if we move the band guitars? Um, 18. See how close these all are together? That just stacked right up against one another, which is good. Now these, if I look into this section right here, I don't want to move any band guitars in here because these are, if I hover over it the right way, PSM 1000s. So I have to somehow get these band guitars in here. Well, you know, maybe I could live with the band guitars being there because they're in the main hall and mostly only used in the evening, although there could be rehearsals during the day. But they are coordinated in the same band, in the same zone as the rest. So they are separated by the appropriate distance. They're just running at regular ULXT power. Now, in reality, on a stage that's, you know, the stage size in the main hall is 50 by 75, I could probably switch the ULXD's band mics, which are probably within 10, 15 feet of their guitar amp, to high density mode as well, and they'd be fine. So here we go. There, get back up there. Get back up there. Now the back in my in this coordination here, let's say we got the ULXD. So now we basically have all the coordination done. Now this is half of the job. The other half is now I have to take my spectrum analyzer and look at each of these frequencies in their turned off mode to see if they're clear, and then pick you know, be very critical about them and make sure I have at least 400 kilohertz on either side of each frequency that's empty. Then I need to power them all on, and within each venue, within the main hall, power them all on, spread them out around the room, and turn them off one at a time and see if the receiver still has an indication of signal on it, called wargaming. And that is a much more sensitive way than looking at it with your spectrum analyzer, because the receivers are much better receivers, actually, than the spectrum analyzer is. Austin says, or asked, you have the lav mics in low power and HD. Are you planning on the receiver antennas being close to the use area? The rooms that they're in, are 75 feet by 35 feet. They're small meeting rooms with a small stage on it, maximum of 4 presenters in that room. So, and the audio equipment is in that room with it. So yes, it is close to where each one of these rooms has a receiver, a 4-channel ULXD receiver running on just on whips off the back of the receiver. So it's very simple, very uncomplicated, no combiners. They're all very close to where they are. So I wouldn't worry about anything in high density mode. Now, there's always a possibility that some outside frequency in somewhere in your coordination is causing a problem, which when you're in the room and you're looking at your spectrum in a 1 megahertz wide window on your spectrum analyzer, you then see it. And at that point, you choose another frequency from your list. Kenneth asked, can you duplicate the 4 corner rooms with their distance? You spread them out on. So AHLU. Well, what I would probably do is I take the 64 frequencies and I assign the odd ones to the first floor, the even ones to the second floor, and then over here I do the opposite. I put the odd ones on the other floor, so that not only do you have this distance, but you have the floor space between them. If there wasn't this much room, this much space, this is 250 feet wide. It's the hall, plus you got to figure another 25, 30 feet for the hallway. So figure it's 300 feet through a couple of walls. Low powered ULXDs won't go this far, won't go halfway down the room, so I wouldn't worry about that. So there, I'm done with my my spectrum. I've got a band plan, and as things come up, let's look at an ENG crew walks in the room here, and they got some electrosonics here. And they're in block 20. Now I've changed. I'm going to open these all back up because now I'm not trying to exclude things from it. This is all open and semi-usable. I wouldn't be against putting electrosonic ENG crews in these areas here, which have higher DTV stations, but you can only see a peak of a part of them on there. So, for instance, if they had block 19, that would be the worst case. How do we squeeze something in block 19? So let's say they had block 19 and we tried to do a list. Well, we still can find, these are all turned off. I'm not trying to do intermod with them at all. I'm only trying to maintain spacing to my equipment. But let's say I want to make sure that I'm 0.399. So I'm away from any of my wireless that's in that area. So now I'm spacing it a little bit more. So here I'm going to do this list again. I've still found one frequency in that area that I could fit spaced out 0.399. Dan asks, as tight as you are in your breakout mic frequencies, would you want to add a handful to a third band and spread the frequencies out a bit more? I've done a bunch of shows with ULXDs in low power mode, and it's like magic. They just don't get outside the room. They're only inside the room. Even these breakout rooms, they just will not really go through the wall, but even an air wall between the rooms. And it's quite amazing if you're just doing a little tiny room. I did a church with over 600 wireless microphones in it, and over 2/3 of them were in breakout rooms where they had 4 to 6 mics in a room, and we did those all on low power ULXD, and it was magic. It was really easy to find tons and tons of frequencies, and it didn't have a problem. But here with our ENG crew, block 19 might be a little bit of a problem because there's all this space in here. But for instance, if I open up this here, which was a channel I had, oh, that's excluded. I'm sorry. Why is that excluded? 14, 15, 16, 17. Why would channel 17 be excluded? (14, 15, 16). Maybe I excluded the wrong thing here in my list here. This is channel 14, 15, 16. So channel 14, 15, 16 should be 470 to 694. Oh, that's 21. (470 to 694). Something wrong with my diagram here. It's not right. Anyway, there's something wrong with that right there. So 17 14, 15, 16 should be excluded, but not 17. So I'm going to just turn these on as DTV like this to exclude them manually. And 17 is okay. So now when I go back and I do my ENG crew for block 19, I get a bunch. So I would typically pick 2 or 3 of them like this, and I'd put it in a separate thing here, and I call it ENG 212 555 1212, and that would be how I would keep track of who it is, and I would take a picture of this and text it to them, so that would be their frequencies, and I give them 2 or 3 extra frequencies on top of it. Well, I can certainly add comm, and I always assumed in this system that there would be wireless comm. In the other venue, I did specify they were using 2.5, 25 free speak 1.9. Assuming I'm doing free speak 2.4 over here, or CrewComm 900, I could easily spread 10, 15 antennas, 10 up to 14 antennas with CrewComm through this room. Each antenna does 6 belt packs, so I can spread them in here and put them down the hallway. So all the 700 meg CrewComm would be available throughout this entire space. The only coordination part of it is I just have to stay away from the 1.9 band because it's completely full over here. 25 free speak are the maximum you can fit in 1.9. Conceivably, if I had Bolero over here, which is also 1.9, it might work okay. But again, it would be competing with the 1.9 band and would have a problem with a full loaded 1.9. Michael, I think it is because on my chart here is set on 8 megahertz and I've used the wrong chart. So that was in this band right here is set on 8 megahertz, and I'm actually using the wrong chart. This chart, the macros don't work right, so my fault. Yeah, that spreadsheet does switch between PAL and NTSC. Let me see if I can get a better one out here. Open. Documents, frequency planning, 38. Let's try this one right here. Come on, you can do it. So now this is set for 6 megahertz. And this one switches to 8 megahertz if I wanted it. Anyway, this 6 megahertz goes from 470 to 488 is the band, 470 to 488. So what I should do up in this exclusion zone here is set this on 470 to 488. Now it's excluding just those 3 channels, which the DTV activation blocks out in colors. I've made my colors much more vibrant than the normal colors in IAS just because I like bright colors. You know, my spreadsheet does not have WYSICOM, and I should add it to it because that's actually one of my favorite wireless. I should add that definitely in there. I have never, Stan was pointing out he's had problem with AC transformer rooms around high density ULXDs. I can imagine that would be a problem just because of, their susceptibility to hum. But I haven't run into it yet. I did have a couple of shows where analog cables run in the hallway outside a big transformer room caused regular hum in the comm system, but that's understandable. I don't see any other questions here per se. So, so that's basically the whole coordination of this system. One of the things I like about IAS is it's much more direct in how you can adjust things. For instance, here, if I look at the band ears and somebody says, oh, I need another band ear, well, I've got to go and select my test I'm going to do on it, but I can right click on one of these frequencies. And one of the things I can do is to range search in this band here, just the same as if I'd filled it in up on the top. And I'm not going to do a range search, and I'm not going to find anything because this look at the frequencies. Say, look down here. It did 8 billion calculations and found nothing. But if I turn off everything and do another range search or Control F, it's going to find a ton of stuff because it's only looking at spacing right now. So here's my PSM 1000 J8s. Push comes to shove, I might, if I actually couldn't find enough frequencies in the J8s to work properly, I might only do third order and see if those frequencies would work. Well, here I can't even get third order because it's just way too full. All the more reasons to pick as many triple beat frequencies as you can get away with when you first do the coordination, or else you're not going to be able to find them later. One of the reasons I started my own collection of frequency scans throughout the world was because the inside versus outside is often a really big difference. If you are in a situation where you're doing a show outside, you're stuck with what's there. This show couldn't have been done outside at all. Then you'd be only coordinating mic cable. But I have never been in a venue where being inside wasn't protected from the outside somewhat. Even Rogers Arena in is it Toronto? Is it in Canada? With a huge transmitter right outside the top of the building. If the building roof is opened, you're out of luck because all the TV stations are right up there. Close the building roof and it's pretty well protected inside. There's not much RF that comes inside. So I think that's the key. But I always start my coordinations with the outside frequency, no matter where I am, because then certainly with analog transmitters, they will be more susceptible to noise and or DTV interference and even other analog frequencies on the outside than DTV. So I would always start with the what am I trying to say? Start with the outside scan first. Now, one of the other things I would do in this list, after I did the coordination, I would go back and name all of these. So the band ears, I want to name them 1 through 8 and spares. And I can do that either by clicking on it and putting the name here, ear 1, for instance, and hitting apply, or I can do it by double clicking on this and entering it over here. Then when I come back to that unit and somebody says my eared channel 5 doesn't work, I can find it. So, and the other thing is, if I wanted to find a new frequency, let's say we go down to a mic here, these J5s, and let's say this was mic 4, and I wanted to find a new frequency for it, I can right click on it and recalculate just that one. And when I scan back down to the frequency here, it turned red because it couldn't find a replacement frequency for it that had these specifications. So I couldn't find a replacement frequency for it. But if it had found one, I'd still know it was labeled mic 4. Now I can go back to this home here and do undo and replace that one thing that I just tried to look for. So naming them is really important. Now, if I want to print this out and sort it in a lot of different ways, I can go to print preview just like I have been doing before, which does an HTML file in frequency order. This is the list I would print out if I wanted to walk around and intercept ENG crews and look at their frequencies and just see how they fit in with my frequencies. But if I want to just Control A the whole thing and copy it and go into a spreadsheet, and paste it, now I've pasted it in there. I'm going to go through and I'm going to erase this part here. And I'm going to erase this stuff at the bottom. Now I have just a list, get rid of this first line here, just a list of the frequencies with titles on the top, and I can sort them any way I want to. I can sort them by the model, the frequency, the channel that they have to be tuned to. Here's electrosonic tuning numbers, what zone they're in, and the TV channel. So I can export this and do with it what I like. Now, if all the names had been filled in, I'd also have then all the names of each different channel that I could use. Yeah, John is pointing about Rogers Center. I did a couple of shows in there many years ago, and in the afternoon we were rehearsing and the roof was open and it was absolute hell trying to make everything work. And come the evening, when we actually had the show, the roof was closed and all of a sudden everything cleaned up and it was absolute heaven. In my website, I have a section of the website that let me see if I can show it to you here, called scans, and I may have to log on here. No, There we go. Here's the scans. Here's all the RF coordinators who have contributed to this website from around the world. This website has not been updated since March, so it's not entirely true. But if you go down here to the bottom, to the next section down here, this is a map of the world with where all the scans were. And if I can get my computer to catch up with me. There we go. So here's a list of all the scans. See, now it wants me to log in. Can't win them all. Although I probably don't remember what the password is. There we go. So if we go down to where the map is, come on, map. This is a list of all the different places by city, venue, date it was done. Red means it's over a year old. Yellow means it's over 6 months old. And green means it's less than 6 months old. And then if I go down a little bit more to the map of the world, come on, internet, you can do it. So here's the map of the world. So if I wanted to look at a scan in the United States that was not listed in my venue, I could zoom in and go to a scan here that was fairly recent here down in Salt Lake City. And here's a scan right here. But let's say my venue was in Salt Lake City, but not at this exact venue. I could still select this scan and download the scan file and load it in just like I did during the coordination. Now, a lot of these scan files are in other formats, such as Wireless Workbench or IAS or made for Sennheiser. So there's a lot of different coordinations there. And down in the bottom of this page are a lot of different ways to reuse these files or to reformat these files to work in other scans. Now, this is an example of outside scan versus inside scan. And I'm talking here about what the importance of it is and why you want to know. Years ago, I did a show for Sound Associates, I think, and it was I had to have 150 wireless mics in this one ballroom, and I was not entirely sure how I was going to do that. So I just ordered. I wasn't where the venue was, so I just ordered every different band they had. And when I got there, it was in the sub basement of a building, and there was absolutely no spectrum visible at all anywhere. It was flat all the way across. Down on the bottom of the not this page, but the downloads page, there are a couple of macros for extracting this stuff. So loading IAS files into Excel, here Excel macro for formatting the WSM file for sending from a TTI scan, stripping comments from a CSV file for loading into Workbench, et cetera, et cetera. So I didn't do all of the different formats, but they're all basically text files. No matter what their extension is, you can change it to TXT and edit the file and fit it in however you want to. So this is basically the scan. I could probably go on forever and talk about RF coordination. I think that it's one of the great technologies we have, and even more now that the spectrum has shrunk. And if you want to be a frequency coordinator, there's going to be jobs out there for you to do that, and it's going to be a challenge sometimes. And I have been on shows where I've gotten to the point where I've had to say, I can't do all of these frequencies. What can we get rid of? Particularly outdoor shows on 34th Street, directly under the Empire State Building. 1, 2, 3, 16 mics might be okay, but beyond that, it's really, really hard. This screen here also is available on my website for download. The version that works that I just downloaded, so you can get it and you'll be able to put in if you knew the DTV station. So I could say D is there and D is here, and then there's maybe 3 DTV stations down here, and it would let you see what band you wanted to plan with, where you wanted to get, what band you wanted to request for your wireless before you actually set them in. Now, Kenneth Goodwin asked, do you accept scans people send you? Of course I do. In fact, in that page, on the page of scans, I do talk about sharing scans and participating in the scan process. I think I closed it already. And it's even more important now that we've exited from the repack to start updating the files. I've got half a dozen scans people have sent me during the COVID period that I have to get in there. But I love to have scans from anybody. And if you want to contribute regularly, I do pay for those scans, $10 per venue per day. So if you want to send me a scan with inside and outside, that's great. V38, you know what, Mark, I have to look at V38 and confirm that it's ready, because that's the one that I updated with the VHS or the VHF section there, but I will definitely get 38 on there. Convert IAS WWB scan into WYSICOM wireless manager format. I'll have to look at that. I can probably do it, but a couple of them are a little hard to do because they're not spreadsheet formats. They're more like XML files. So they take a little bit more to do. You might check with wireless with WYSICOM to see if they had a macro for doing that, which I'm going to do right away. I think I pretty much covered every question. Thank you very much for coming and listening to this exciting process here. I definitely would love to, if you want to share any frequency scans with me. Obviously, I prefer them as a regular CSV file, but I've taken them any format they want. And key to doing your scans is setting your spectrum analyzer up in such a way that you actually see the DTV stations, the little square boxes. You want to make sure you have enough gain or enough reference level so that you can see that spectrum come through. The important thing is to determine where the TV stations are. Some people do scans extremely detailed so they can see every little tiny frequency in there. In other words, they'll do a scan for each TV station And that's really not necessary. I do 40 meg chunks of the scan, and that's sufficient. You just want to know where the TV stations are when you've finished your coordination, and you go in and look at every single frequency in a 1 megahertz scan. Then you'll see all the little details in a much more important way to see how close they are to the actual frequency you're using. I use a TTI to do my scans, and then I use a Keysight to do the actual detailed scans because it's got a keypad on it. People who are out on tour, John, definitely make out gangbusters because they're doing like 1 scan a day. I have a couple of people that have bought all new furniture for their house on their scans they've sent me. So it's definitely appreciated. Please send me the scans. So you can also become a patron to Practical Show Tech. We've had a great time doing shows here for you, and we've been doing them now for a long time. How long have we been doing them? 116 days. 116 days. That's just show number 76. And all of these, most all of these are available on our website or YouTube. Coming on Thursday, we have a terrific webinar coming. Gail DePoli is going to come on and tell us her trials and tribulations of being a tech manager, tech director in all over the world in every different format, from film shows to TV to live events. So she's going to come on and talk about that. And then on Friday, Corey Peoples and Jason Waffle are going to come on and do this same exact coordination, this same exact tech spec and drawing with Wireless Workbench. And I'm looking forward to that because I've compared them both, the two systems, but they're totally different ways of working. So it'll be interesting. And then the week after that, I've got 2 shows coming up, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 being 2 tin cans and a string, your basic intercom. And part 2, making your 2 tin cans and a string actually useful. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us. And we will be talking to you later. Bye-bye.